Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. Now, it's 2 weeks away from the election, and if you're like me, you don't know a lot about the Lexington mayor's race. Two major candidates, and they don't seem to disagree on a lot. So we decided it was important enough to bring them in here and ask them about some of the major issues facing the city. So we start with development. Linda Gordon has questioned why a national real estate group would back the campaign of her opponent, Ronnie Baston. And he has repeatedly said he supports preserving farmland and maintaining Lexington's growth boundary. So here's what both candidates told us on the matter.
I have never said, like I heard my opponents say back in February, that I think there need to be exceptions to the urban service boundary. Right now, we need to hold it tight while we're filling in. Everybody I talk to wants infill and redevelopment. They want our urban core to be as healthy as it can and have as much density as it can. And so we've got to do that first. Then, when that's all filled in, we will talk about what the criteria are and what the objective data are that will move us forward on a decision about the boundary. I have never been one to say that I think we need exceptions to the boundary. Right now we need to hold the line. You have to understand we also have a very healthy, big economic arena out in the ag industries. It's a very fine balance to keep all that diverse job market going, and it's important to us. It's what makes us different from any other city.
I have not waffled one moment about growth. I'm in favor of keeping the urban services boundary. I'm not in favor of this proposed so-called Stinnett Amendment. We need to protect the beauty that we've been blessed with, and I'm going to do that. I think that maybe the reason realtors and others are finding a fresh voice here is because they know that I'm going to do that. I'm going to protect what we have. I'm also the candidate that's going to help the most with safety and work on the economy and make sure we have safe schools and affordable housing. Those are all things that cause folks like realtors to have an ability to sell the community to those who are looking at Lexington as their home. So I'm offering much more than just on that single issue. I'm not going to expand the boundary. I have a tremendous amount of support in our equine industry and thoroughbred industry that I'm very, very proud of. They have confidence that I'm not going to threaten that industry. I'm going to advocate for it and help the industry thrive.
Next up, homelessness. Lexington leaders have tried to address this problem during the administration of Jim Gray with a campaign to change the way people donate and a transportation program for the working poor. We asked Baston and Gordon if they had any new ideas.
I think we've made great strides in the last few years. I know Charlie Lanter, who started within the Office of Homelessness a few years ago, and now Polly, who's in that office, have done a great job finding housing for individuals. What we're doing is working, but we need to continue that. We need to continue the funding for that. We need to continue to work with partners like Jenny Ramsey and many others who are helping with the effort, and continue just to look for opportunities to increase what we're doing. It is an issue, and it's an issue that's it's plaguing our country, not only Lexington. And we'll continue to look for benchmarks outside of Lexington, but we're going to do all we can because helping our fellow man is a responsibility that we have.
We know through cities that are having some success with this that Housing First is a program we should implement in a bigger way here. If you're homeless and you don't have a roof over your head, then you are not going to be looking for a job. You're not going to be able to enjoy other amenities here because you're on the street. And so there are some really good successes. St. James Place is one where they house homeless veterans. And once the veterans are in there and have housing, then they can start looking for jobs and getting the health needs that they might have. You know, a lot of the homeless have mental health issues, and so we've got to pay attention to that. And then the other thing is to continue supporting inside government the Office for Homeless Prevention, which we established when I was vice mayor. And that office works with other nonprofits and entities that are good at housing people.
We also asked the mayoral candidates about any additional measures they would take on a city level to help increase security and safety in the city schools.
Well, the first thing is we have to have a safe community all the way around, safe neighborhoods. They've done a lot in terms of putting more police in the schools, which I think is quite all right. That helps us in our schools. But go way back to when children are in the home. You know, a lot of young children and school-agers find loaded guns in their homes. There is no reason that should ever happen. And so government can be on the leading edge of education and programs to help get loaded guns where they're not accessible by children and school-age children. Because, you know, some of the things that have happened, like the child who took a gun to school because he was taking it to defend himself, well, you know, he should not have been able to have access to a loaded gun. And government can help with that in terms of education, in terms of, you know, we've done programs in the past where we have safety locks that we provide to people and that sort of thing. You know, we can't make gun control laws on the local level, but we can have partnerships with police in the schools and work closely with the schools to make sure they're safe.
We have to work hand in hand with the school system, and you know, we know that the school system has their own funding source and their own division of law enforcement that takes care of a lot of matters, but we have to make sure that we're coordinating very closely and we're sharing information. The school system doesn't exist in isolation. A lot of times issues occur within the community, and those are what may be a factor in causing students to believe they need to bring guns to school because of an issue that happened in a neighborhood over the weekend or night before. And we have to make sure that we're sharing information with that. Also with social media, a lot of threats and disrespectful things are said on social media now. And so I think that's intensified the level of violence over the years because of that. Because when someone is threatened or disrespected, I think they feel like that they're disrespected in front of the entire world. And that in order to regain respect, that they have to come back with a very strong response. And I think that's elevated the level of violence that we see today. So we have to be aware of that. Teachers have to be aware. Parents have to be aware. Those of us in the community that have contact with young adults and children need to ask sometimes what's going on. And if we're tuned in and can see that there's something really on their mind and bothering them, maybe we can uncover something that could really help prevent a major incident from occurring.
Here's what the two had to say about battling the city's ongoing opioid crisis.
First, I think we have to choke the supply of opioids. I have success in doing that and fighting various battles with drugs along the way in my career in public safety. But we have to reduce the supply, and we have to hold people accountable who are profiting off of selling drugs to our family members and our kids. The second thing we have to do is make sure that we have enough treatment resources in the community, and we don't right now. Sometimes when people are ready for treatment, they have to wait in order to get in. We don't need a situation where people have to wait a few months to get in the program that they need. I think there's some ways we can do that. I think we can look to provide some incentive packages for private pay companies to come in and help with some of the additional space that we need and services. I also think there's an opportunity to look at a regional approach and try to attract federal dollars, because it is very expensive, and it's not going to be something the government can build a facility or, you know, spend a whole lot of money on, because it's going to be very expensive to do. Everyone needs to know that someone cares about them and has their back, and that someone would be willing to call them 5, 6, 7 times a day if necessary to help them walk through those tough days after they've completed their program that they've gone through.
My plan is that we finally need to get off the dime and solve this through a multidisciplinary way. Police are working on getting rid of dealers and traffickers. Fire, you know, those paramedics and EMTs, they're reviving people every day. And, you know, they go to the emergency room, get treated, and then they're right back out. The missing piece is the addiction piece. I mean the treatment piece, addiction treatment piece. I want us to adopt an ANGEL program like Louisville. The ANGEL is a former addict who has been clean for 5 years, and when someone goes to the emergency room for an overdose, they call an ANGEL. And that ANGEL goes directly to the emergency room, and one of their jobs is to bond with this overdose patient and then get them into treatment. It's the missing piece. And we have some great models here in town, Hope Center, the Chrysalis House, but we don't have enough.
Finally, we asked the two mayoral candidates this week, what are 3 things you think need to be changed in the city of Lexington right now? And here are their responses.
One of the big things is traffic. Goodness, everywhere I go, all people want to talk about is traffic, traffic, traffic. And you know, I think there's some room to improve traffic. I've heard for years that we're in this spoke and wheel system. The design is what really causes traffic issues. Well, I'm not willing to accept that. And others may have in the past, but I'm not willing to do it. I'm going to go in and we're going to take a fresh look at traffic, and we're going to do all we can to use data that's available and try to program our lights and look, you know, to pilot some new innovations if we can find some that we think will help traffic move, and move on with it. We've got to find a way to get our traffic flowing better. Rising violent crime, opioids, as we've already talked about, and then school safety. Those are the biggest issues that are on people's mind as I talk with them.
Of course, I would change the drug situation. We've got to get illegal, illicit drugs out of here. I would have to put traffic in there. I think we need to try out and pilot some of those intelligent traffic signals. We don't really have them right now, but some other cities are starting to use them. If they see an intersection out on New Circle Road or Nicholasville Road, for example, and traffic has changed and it's, you know, there's a lot of backup, they can change the signaling right then. If I could wave my magic wand, I think that tourism, we are on the verge of changing our tourism landscape for the better. And we have unbelievable economic and tourist potential here.